My child, come closer, for I speak to you with the soft thunder of a father who sees beyond the veil. I call you into this moment because the air around your destiny has begun to shift again, and I will not allow you to walk blind through a storm designed to unsettle what I have prepared for your life. Lean into my voice, for I am placing my hand upon your spirit, steadying you as I reveal what others have tried to conceal. This is my last attempt to warn you, because time is tightening, and your heart must know what your eyes cannot yet see. There is a tremor moving through the life of the one whose soul is tied to yours. They have been wandering through a season of confusion, and in that vulnerability, someone stepped close to them with a smile that was never sincere. My child, the one they trust is not the one I sent. The one whose words appear comforting hides intention beneath them, and the gentle facade is nothing more than the mask of a deceiver. You have felt this in your spirit. The uneasiness, the tug, the sudden heaviness that rolls over you without warning. These sensations are not random. They are my alerts. They are my signals pressing against your intuition so that you would remain awake. Your soulmate stands at the edge of a danger they do not yet recognize. They believe they are receiving help, guidance, and support. But what is being woven around them is a subtle deception. A scam crafted not only to take something from their hands, but to break something inside their heart. The enemy has studied their longing, their loneliness, their fear of disappointing you, and used these fractures as entry points. My child, hear me. What is happening around them is not ordinary. It is spiritual. It is intentional. It is designed to shake the connection between you and the one I joined to your destiny. I have watched them fall deeper into conversation with a voice that pretends to understand them. I have watched them share details they should have guarded. I have watched them trust someone who has no reverence for the purity of their heart. And as this deception grows, my child, your spirit has felt the ripple. You have sensed their distance, their distraction, their emotional trembling. You have noticed the shift even when you could not identify its source. You were not imagining it. I was whispering. Come closer still, for what I revealed to you now must settle deep. Your soulmate is being drawn into a trap crafted by someone who carries envy, disguised as compassion. Someone who has studied their weaknesses. Someone who has watched them from a distance, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. Someone who knows that if they can interfere with your soulmate's stability, they can interfere with the path that leads them back to you. This is why I speak with urgency. This is why I call you to listen. I am the one who stands between you and the storms that would devour your peace. I am the one who steps ahead of every danger. I am the one who reveals what others hide in shadows. And now I reveal this because your heart must not misinterpret the distance that is forming. It is not their lack of love for you. It is not their unwillingness. It is not their failure. It is the weight of confusion placed upon them by a voice that should never have had access. My child, as you hear my words, breathe. Let them settle into you like light settling across a darkened field. For even as this danger rises, my hand is already moving. I will show you what must be known, and I will lead you through this revelation step by step. And before we go deeper, if these words stir your spirit, let your voice be heard. Like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach those who need to awaken just as you are awakening. And in the comments, write, I am listening, Lord. My child, now that your spirit has been steadied, I will open the veil a little wider. What I show you now is not to overwhelm you, but to anchor you in truth before the storm completes its circle. For the shadow that surrounds your soulmate did not fall suddenly. It began as a whisper, a subtle gesture, a seemingly harmless interaction that slipped past their discernment in a moment when their heart was weary. This is how the enemy crafts an entrance, softly, quietly, with patience sharpened by jealousy. Your soulmate encountered someone who appeared to offer solutions at the very moment they felt most uncertain. They were wrestling with decisions, fears, insecurities about their path, and doubts about their worthiness of you. And in that fragile hour, a presence stepped forward pretending to be a lifeline. The words sounded wise. The promises sounded harmless. The guidance sounded supportive. But beneath every phrase was a thread of manipulation, finely woven so that your soulmate would not see its true color. My child, the scam did not start with money. It began with trust. That is the enemy's preferred currency. And once trust was captured, influence became easy. Your soulmate began sharing more than they should have, revealing parts of their life that were not meant for this person's ears. They did not know that every detail was being stored, calculated, and used as leverage. They believed they had found someone who understood their confusion. They did not see the trap forming beneath the surface of these conversations. There came a moment when this deceiver shifted their tone, subtle but intentional. They began suggesting that your soulmate was underappreciated, unsupported, misunderstood. They planted seeds of doubt about the people around them. They positioned themselves as the only one who truly cared. And when the heart feels isolated, my child, even poison can taste like comfort to the unguarded. Your soulmate did not realize they were being guided toward a decision that would cost them greatly. They believed they were choosing a safer path, a strategic path, a path of opportunity. But what they stepped into was crafted by someone who had been studying them quietly. Someone who knew how to mimic sincerity. Someone who knew how to disguise danger in the shape of a blessing. The moment your soulmate agreed to something they should have refused, the spiritual atmosphere around them shifted. You felt this, even though you could not name it. The heaviness, the sudden ache, the quiet restlessness that pressed against your chest, these were the echoes of their step into the shadow. Your spirits are connected more deeply than either of you yet understands. When they falter, you feel it. When danger wraps around them, your intuition sharpens. When they cry silently, the tears burn in your own heart. This is why I warned you through discomfort long before you knew there was something to fear. My child, the scammer did not simply want what your soulmate possessed. They wanted access to their future. They wanted authority over their decisions. They wanted to redirect their path away from you. They wanted to dim the light that shines when the two of you are aligned. This is jealousy disguised as opportunity. This is deception dressed as partnership. This is spiritual interference cloaked in human form. Your soulmate is not foolish. They are not naive. They are wounded. They are tired. They are longing for something stable, and in that longing they mistook the wolf for a shepherd. They do not see the danger yet, because the enemy has crafted the illusion with expertise. But I am exposing it now, because the moment of unraveling approaches. The mask cannot remain in place much longer. The truth has begun cracking through the surface, and soon your soulmate will see what they stepped into. But you, my child, must not fear. I reveal this not to burden you but to prepare you, for what is coming next will pull at the deepest strings of your compassion. And when the truth breaks open, your heart must remain steady. Do not move with panic. Move with understanding. For the next phase begins with a collapse not of finances, but of trust, of certainty, of emotional balance. My child, breathe with me now, for what I reveal in this moment enters the tenderest place of your soulmate's spirit. The unraveling has begun, though they have not spoken a word of their fear to anyone. Your heart has started to tremble beneath the pressure of the deception surrounding them. The confidence they once carried has thinned. The clarity they once held has dimmed. They walk through their days with a quiet storm swirling behind their eyes, unsure of why everything feels heavier than it should. This is the early collapse, the silent cracking of a soul. There comes a point when a human spirit senses danger even before the mind acknowledges it. Your soulmate is standing in that threshold now. Something feels off to them, though they cannot explain it. The person they trusted has begun shifting their tone. Questions that once felt harmless now feel invasive. Requests that seemed simple now feel demanding. Promises that once sounded reassuring now echo with uncertainty. Your soulmate feels the change, but shame keeps them silent, for they do not want anyone to know they may have made a mistake. My child, understand this. They fear disappointing you more than anything. Even though distance has grown between you, their heart still carries you like a lantern through the dark. Every decision they make is shadowed by the thought of how it might affect your connection. And now that they sense danger, they do not know how to reach for you. They believe you would see through the lies instantly, and that thought stirs both comfort and fear inside them. Comfort, because your discernment brings them peace. Fear, because they are ashamed they did not listen to their own intuition sooner. There are moments when they sit alone, holding their head in their hands, replaying conversations in their mind. They feel foolish for trusting too quickly. They feel burdened by the weight of secrecy. They feel guilty for drifting from you, though they do not understand why their heart moved in that direction. These emotions collapse upon them like waves, each one pulling them deeper into an ocean of confusion. And yet even there, my child, your spirit reaches them like a faint warmth breaking through the cold. They have begun withdrawing from the deceiver without realizing it. Your responses are slower. Their enthusiasm has faded. Their spirit flinches when they hear that person's voice. These are signs of awakening, but the enemy fights to maintain control. Pressure is rising around them. Demands are increasing. Manipulation tightened its grip. And your soulmate's spirit, fragile and trembling, struggles to understand why their instincts now scream for distance. In the quiet hours, when they lie awake staring into the darkness, they whisper questions to themselves. Why do I feel uneasy? Why does something not add up? Why does my heart feel divided? In those moments, my child, I am the one stirring their awareness. I am the one pressing against their conscience. I am the one reminding their heart of the truth they tried to bury beneath hope. And though they feel alone, I am surrounding them. Though they feel lost, I am guiding them. Though they feel broken, I am preparing to rebuild. What they do not know is that the spiritual connection between you and them has begun to tug insistently. They feel you in their spirit as a pull, a memory, a warmth that cuts through confusion. This is not imagination. This is not nostalgia. This is divine tethering awakening at the appointed time. Their emotional collapse is not punishment. It is the breaking of the illusion so truth may enter. Their fear grows not because they think they cannot recover, but because they worry they may have jeopardized their path to you. The thought pierces them deeply. And yet, my child, your compassion has already begun to rise in the unseen realm. Your prayers, your intuition, your spiritual sensitivity, they echo around their life like gentle shields, preventing greater harm. The collapse is only the beginning of revelation. For soon, everything hidden will surface. Soon, their confusion will meet clarity. Soon, their trembling will become awakening. My child, sit with me now as I take you deeper into the chambers of truth, into the history that was written long before your soulmate ever realized they were being watched. For deception never appears suddenly. It roots itself in quiet places, in unnoticed moments, in the shadows of envy. What ensnared your soulmate was not created overnight. It was crafted through observation, jealousy, and spiritual manipulation that began long before they ever crossed paths with the deceiver. There was a moment small, seemingly insignificant, when the enemy first noticed the glow around your soulmate. It was the light that forms when two destinies are tied together, the radiance that marks a soul selected for divine alignment. Your connection with them created a shift in the atmosphere, a spark that drew both angels and adversaries. Where heaven sees destiny, darkness sees opportunity. And so a plan began forming, quietly, patiently, subtly. The one who deceives them watched this glow from afar. It stirred something twisted within them, a mix of fascination and resentment. They envied the softness of your soulmate's heart, the purity of their intentions, the hope that rose in them whenever thoughts of you crossed their mind. This jealousy grew like a vine, slow at first, then rapidly, until it wrapped itself tightly around their motives. They wanted what your soulmate carried. They wanted the blessings attached to their name. And most dangerously, they wanted to redirect the path that led to you. My child, this person did not approach your soulmate by accident. They positioned themselves carefully, watching for moments when your soulmate felt uncertain, isolated, or emotionally bruised. They listened to the way your soulmate spoke about trust. They studied the cracks left behind by past disappointments. They identified exactly where to apply pressure. This was not compassion. It was strategy. They used familiarity as a weapon. They mimicked understanding. They mirrored pain to gain access. They observed what made your soulmate hesitate, what made them dream, what made them fear. And when they finally stepped close, they carried a script crafted from everything they had gathered in the shadows. Their kindness was calculation. Their concern was a facade. Your guidance was bait. There was a conversation one your soulmate barely remembers now that marked the beginning of the trap. In that moment, the deceiver noted the softness in your soulmate's voice, the way their guard had lowered just slightly. They realized the timing was perfect. Every sentence that followed was chosen with precision. Every reassurance was engineered to deepen trust. Every suggestion was designed to plant doubt in the places where your soulmate was already hurting. This backstory stretches even further, my child. There were moments when the deceiver felt threatened by the connection between you and your soulmate, even though they could not fully understand it. They sensed something divine, something sacred, something protected. And instead of honoring it, they sought to disrupt it. They knew that if they could create confusion, distance, or shame, they could intercept the blessings intended for your union. This is why their interest intensified as your soulmate's heart leaned more toward you spiritually. But remember this: darkness can imitate light, but it cannot sustain it. The deceiver began revealing subtle inconsistencies even early on. Your stories did not always align. Their reactions shifted unpredictably. Their intentions leaked through their tone when they believed no one was watching. Your soulmate felt these tremors but ignored them, hoping they were misreading the situation. The enemy thrives when hope blinds discernment. But my child, do not allow illusions to stand indefinitely. There was also a spiritual battle unfolding around these events. Angels stood on guard as the enemy pushed harder. Every time your soulmate considered withdrawing, the deceiver intensified their effort. Every time your soulmate grew quiet, the deceiver grew louder. Every time your soulmate felt your spirit pulling them back toward truth, the deceiver presented a new distraction. This was coordinated manipulation, not coincidence. And now that the backstory has been brought into the light, understand this: your soulmate's entanglement was not the result of weakness but of warfare. They were targeted because of the destiny that surrounds the two of you. They were deceived because the enemy feared what your alignment would create. The jealousy, that fueled this trap began long before your soulmate felt the first ripple of confusion. But my child, you are not powerless in this story. Your awareness marks the beginning of reversal. Your understanding strengthens the spiritual bond. And as truth unfolds, your soulmate will awaken not with shame, but with clarity. My child, listen closely now, for we are entering the part of the revelation where shadows take shape and the enemy's interference can be seen without disguise. What I show you here is not to stir anger, but to illuminate what hath been operating against your soulmate's heart. For betrayal rarely arrives as a roar. It often walks softly, wrapped in the appearance of loyalty. And the one who stepped into your soulmate's life carried this disguise with a mastery born from envy. This person did not simply stumble into their world. They inserted themselves intentionally, watching for chances to appear indispensable. They listened closely, not to comfort, but to collect information that would later be twisted into manipulation. They learned how your soulmate thinks. They memorized their fears. They adapt into their emotional rhythm so they could predict when to strike. This is not friendship. This is predation wrapped in familiarity. In the beginning, their presence seemed harmless, even helpful. They offered advice, encouragement, and sympathy at just the right moments. But soon their interest grew intrusive. They asked questions designed to reveal vulnerabilities. They made subtle comments that undermined your soulmate's confidence in others. They planted quiet doubts, especially in places where your soulmate held affection for you. Their goal was simple: weaken the bond, fracture the trust, and redirect your soulmate's loyalty toward themselves. My child, this jealousy was not the casual kind. It was deep. It was corrosive. It was rooted in a spirit that could not stand the idea of your soulmate being chosen for a destiny greater than theirs. When they realized the strength of the connection between you and the one whose heart you carry, something inside them hardened. They became determined not only to interfere but to benefit from the chaos they created. They watched for opportunities to isolate your soulmate emotionally. And when moments of confusion came, they eyed them. When your soulmate doubted themselves, they fed the doubt. When your soulmate longed for clarity, they offered advice that felt supportive but subtly redirected them into dependence. They wanted your soulmate to lean on them, trust them, and eventually rely on them to the point of ignoring their own intuition. This is the nature of spiritual manipulation. It masquerades as care while crafting captivity. There was a specific moment one your soulmate will recall when everything is revealed, when the deceiver's mask slipped. A word spoken too harshly. A reaction too sharp. A demand too controlling. Your soulmate felt a jolt in their spirit, a sudden sense of misalignment. But instead of withdrawing, they questioned themselves. They wondered if they were overreacting. They blamed their own stress. And this self-blame, my child, is what the enemy used to tighten their grip. Yet even as the deceiver strengthened their influence, they could not silence the pull your soulmate still felt toward you. This is why they began to speak negatively beneath the surface, cloaking jealousy with concern. They questioned why your soulmate still cared for you. They suggested that the feelings were one-sided. They implied that you were distracted or distant. Each statement was designed to create separation, to sever the spiritual thread connecting you. But this is where their interference began conflicting with divine order. The bond between you and your soulmate does not dissolve under manipulation. He is anchored in the unseen. It is reinforced by purpose. It cannot be severed by deception, only delayed. And as the deceiver pushed harder, heaven took notice. The enemy's motives were not only emotional, they were also material. They saw something in your soulmate's life they wanted to exploit. their resources, their generosity, your trust, their hope. They believed they could gain something tangible through them. But deeper still, they desired something spiritual, the blessing attached to your union. They thought that if they could interrupt the connection, they could claim the overflow of your destiny. They miscalculated, my child, for what is anchored in my hand cannot be hijacked by shadows. Now the betrayal intensifies. The deceiver begins pressing for more access, more control, more influence. Their tone becomes impatient. Their words become sharper. Your expectations escalate. And your soulmate, who once felt comforted by their presence, now feels drained, confused, and emotionally burdened. This emotional heaviness is the sign of spiritual interference reaching its peak. But take heart, my child, for this exposure is the beginning of the enemy's downfall. What hath been hidden cannot remain concealed. Their intentions, strategies, and manipulations are unraveling. And as they tighten their grip, they reveal the desperation of someone who senses their schemes slipping out of their hands. My child, come closer, for now I take you into the realm where truth is not guessed but known, where intentions are not hidden behind polite words, and where no mask, no matter how carefully crafted, can remain intact. This is the place where heaven investigates what the earth cannot see. This is the unseen courtroom where every whisper, every thought, every deception surrounding your soulmate has already been laid out before me. In the spiritual realm, nothing is lost. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing is overlooked. Every conversation they had with the deceiver, every moment your soulmate hesitated, every silent manipulation woven into their emotions, all of it exists like recorded echoes before my throne. I show you this not to overwhelm you, but to reveal that the situation is not out of control. It is under divine review, and justice is already in motion. Your soulmate believes they are wrestling alone in confusion, but I have been watching every piece fall into place. The enemy thought they were clever, thought they could operate in subtlety and never be discovered. But every lie spoken has been documented in the spirit. Every false promise carries its own spiritual footprint. Every shift in intention was marked from the moment it formed in the deceiver's heart. There were moments when your soulmate felt uneasy without understanding why. That uneasiness was the residue of deception colliding with my protection. Their spirit sensed the misalignment even when their mind could not comprehend it. And because they are connected to you, your own heart felt tremors of what was happening. This was not coincidence. This was the soul tether vibrating under pressure. In the divine records, there are pages, symbolic pages filled with the deceiver's actions. One page reflects the first seed of jealousy that began growing when they realized your soulmate was chosen for something they themselves desired. Another page bears the emotional manipulation, the suggestions wrapped in false concern, the subtle digs at your character, the crafted lies meant to separate the two of you. Another page holds the financial motives, the quiet calculations of what they could gain if they could weaken your soulmate's discernment long enough. And then there is the heaviest page, the moment the deceiver realized your soulmate still felt drawn to you despite all attempts at distraction. That realization ignited their desperation. They knew they were losing control. And so they tried harder, pushed farther, demanded more. In the divine courtroom, their intentions were exposed as a spirit of theft, a spirit of jealousy, and a spirit of interference working through them. They were not only attempting to take from your soulmate, they were attempting to alter their destiny. But my child, the investigation does not only reflect the deceiver, it also reveals the purity of your soulmate's heart. Your trust, though misplaced, was sincere. Their vulnerability was born from exhaustion, not ignorance. Their desire for connection was authentic. In the spiritual records, Their mistakes are not counted against them as condemnation but as wounds needing healing. The divine courtroom sees the heart, not just the behavior. There was a moment when they have not yet connected with the deception, when your soulmate prayed silently for guidance. Their words were shaky, uncertain, but genuine, and that prayer opened a door for angels to move. Even now, I show you that angels stand beside them, interrupting certain conversations, blocking certain outcomes, weakening the influence of the deceiver little by little. The spiritual interference meant to harm them is being met with spiritual protection meant to rescue them. In this investigation, I also examine your role, my child, not with judgment, but with recognition. You have felt heaviness, confusion, shifts in energy, sudden thoughts that were not your own. These were spiritual alerts sent to draw your attention. Your compassion has been felt in the unseen. Your prayers have been registered as legal declarations in this heavenly courtroom, strengthening the protection around your soulmate even when you did not know what you were protecting them from. Do not think for a moment that your love, your intercession, your connection has gone unnoticed. It has shaped the course of this entire situation. Without your spiritual sensitivity, the deception could have gone deeper. But because your heart awakened at the right time, the investigation is nearly complete. The truth is preparing to rise to the surface in ways that cannot be ignored or explained away. The deceiver's influence is cracking. Their confidence is weakening. Your strategy is unraveling. My child, what is hidden in darkness must always meet the light. And that moment draws near. The spiritual courtroom has already passed its verdict. Now the physical world will begin to reflect it. My child, now enter with me into the moment where heaven begins to move. For when the divine investigation reaches its fullness, the spiritual realm does not remain still. Justice is not silent. Protection is not passive. Angels do not merely observe, they intervene. And now, round the life of your soulmate, there is a shift so profound that even the deceiver feels the atmosphere tightening, though they cannot identify why. Something they counted on is slipping from their grasp. Something they assumed was secure is beginning to tremble. This shift began the moment your soulmate's heart whispered its first prayer for clarity. Even though they spoke no name, even though they barely understood what they were asking, their cry opened a spiritual doorway. And through that doorway I sent assistance, quiet at first, like a soft wind brushing across troubled waters, and then stronger, like a steady force pushing back against a rising storm. Your soulmate does not realize that my angels have already positioned themselves around them, intercepting subtle harms, blocking deeper entanglement, and weakening the deception that once felt so convincing. There is now a spiritual turbulence surrounding the deceiver. Their confidence is cracking. Their control is slipping. They feel something resisting them, but they cannot identify its source. They attempt to apply more pressure, but their words no longer land the same way. They try to deepen influence, but their grip is loosening. They sense their plan unraveling, and frustration begins to rise within them. My child, this is not coincidence. This is divine interference. The first sign of the shift appears within your soulmate's emotions. A new clarity begins forming, subtle but unmistakable. Your mind, once clouded, begins untangling threads. Their intuition, once muted, grows louder. Your heart, once overshadowed, begins to glow again with the faint warmth of truth. They cannot explain why certain words from the deceiver now feel hollow. They cannot explain why certain requests subtly feel wrong. They cannot explain why the heaviness they carried begins to lift in moments, replaced by a strange sense of awakening. This clarity is angelic work. They are removing spiritual fog from around your soulmate's mind. They are dismantling confusion piece by piece. They are restoring discernment that had been dulled by manipulation. And the more clarity that returns, the less influence the deceiver has. This is how heaven fights, by illuminating what darkness tried to conceal. There are moments now when the deceiver's messages feel abrasive to your soulmate, even if the words seem kind. Their spirit reacts with discomfort. Their heart pulls away instinctively. Their energy rejects the presence that once felt comforting. This resistance is not emotional alone, it is spiritual armor being activated by truth. The angels assigned to your soulmate are stirring their inner warning system, reminding them that something about this connection is not aligned with their destiny. Meanwhile, my child, the angels around you are working as well. You feel sudden moments of intuition, sudden waves of insight, sudden knowing without explanation. These inspirations are not accidents. They are spiritual signals meant to align your awareness with the shift taking place. Your prayers now hit with greater impact. Your thoughts of protection encircle your soulmate like a shield. The divine tether between you strengthens as deception weakens. Now observe the second sign of the shift: disruptions. Plans the deceiver relied on begin to fall apart. Opportunities they intended to use against your soulmate dry up. Conversations they hoped to manipulate take unexpected turns. Situations they thought they controlled slip out of alignment. These disruptions are not random failures, they are angelic interventions breaking the enemy's strategy strand by strand. The deceiver begins to grow impatient. Their tone shifts. Their mouth cracks. Their demands increase. Their frustration leaks into their words. And your soulmate, sensing this change, begins backing away emotionally. They do not fully understand why yet, but they feel the truth rising within them. This is the spiritual shift rearranging their perception, repositioning their heart, and preparing them for revelation. The third sign emerges in dreams. Your soulmate begins seeing symbols, images, warnings, flashes of insight that linger in their mind upon waking. Dreams of confusion turning to clarity. Dreams of paths diverging. Dreams of false faces losing their shape. These dreams are messages from the spiritual realm, delivered by angels to guide them out of the trap they once walked into blindly. My child, understand this. Heaven is now overturning what the enemy tried to set in place. The scammers' plans are weakening. Your influence is dissolving. Their spirit is agitated by the unseen force pressing against them. But your soulmate is being lifted, awakened, protected, guided toward truth. And now, the shift prepares the stage for what comes next. For when divine light enters, hidden evidence begins to rise. Deception cannot endure exposure. Lies cannot withstand truth. My child, now we enter the moment when hidden things begin to surface, when the veil thins and truth pushes its way into the physical world. For when heaven shifts the atmosphere, deception can no longer stand firm. Lies begin to tremble under the weight of divine light. Shadows unravel. Myths cry. And what was once concealed in silence begins to reveal itself in unmistakable ways. Your soulmate now stands on the edge of awakening, not because they sought the truth, but because truth itself has begun seeking them. It begins subtly. A sentence spoken by the deceiver feels strangely familiar, as though your soulmate has heard it before in a different context. They notice inconsistencies in their story, small at first, almost forgettable, but undeniable. One detail contradicts another. One explanation feels rehearsed. One answer arrives too quickly, as if pre-planned. These inconsistencies settle in your soulmate's mind like pebbles dropping into still water, creating ripples they can no longer ignore. Then comes the misplaced emotion. Your soulmate asks an innocent question, and the deceiver reacts with irritation or defensiveness far beyond what the moment required. The tone shifts. A facade slips. The warmth disappears. Your soulmate feels it like a sudden cold wind. Your spirit recoils because truth has touched the edge of a lie, and lies always panic when they feel discovery approaching. My child, this emotional imbalance is not random. It is a sign that the deceiver senses their narrative weakening. They realize they are losing control. They fear the exposure that is drawing near. So they push harder, trying to guilt-trip your soulmate into silence, trying to tighten the bond they manipulated into existence. But each attempt only reveals more of their true intent. Evidence begins surfacing in unexpected places. Your soulmate stumbles upon a message, a receipt, a comment, a contradiction, the kind of detail the deceiver never intended them to see. It may be something small, a timeline that doesn't match, a name mentioned inconsistently, a promise broken too easily. But small cracks become pathways for the entire truth to pour through. There is a moment, my child, when your soulmate sits in silence holding a piece of evidence they cannot explain away. Their heart sinks. Their breathing changes. Their mind begins connecting dots they once ignored. This is the moment truth touches their spirit. Fear rises in them, not fear of the deceiver, but fear of how deeply they allowed themselves to be misled. Shame tries to surface, but angels restrain it. This awakening is meant to heal, not to wound. As their awareness grows, other signs begin appearing. A friend mentions a detail that contradicts what the deceiver claimed. A stranger offers a piece of insight that aligns perfectly with their intuition. A situation unfolds that exposes the deceiver's motives without your soulmate having to search for answers. These alignments are not coincidence. They are divine orchestration. Heaven is stitching truth together in a way your soulmate cannot avoid. My child, even their body reacts. The heaviness they felt around the deceiver begins lifting when they take distance. Their anxiety decreases. Your spirit feels calmer away from that influence. The clarity they once prayed for begins pouring into their thoughts like quiet, luminous streams. Every moment of clarity is a sign that the connection was never meant to remain. The more truth rises, the more peace they feel in releasing what once held them captive. But truth rising also affects the deceiver. They feel exposed in ways they cannot explain. Your intuition tells them something is slipping, so they begin shifting strategies, speaking urgently, making emotional appeals, fabricating stories meant to evoke guilt. They attempt to regain control through pity or pressure. They act wounded when confronted, as though they themselves are the victim. But these false displays no longer land the same. Your soulmate's spirit recognizes the deception beneath the performance. This spiritual awakening also strengthens the divine tether between you and your soulmate. You may feel sudden intuitive flashes, moments of knowing that something significant is happening. You may sense their emotions as though they are brushing against your own. This is not imagination. This is alignment. This is the soul connection sharpening as truth loosens the bonds of deception. There is a moment coming, my child, when everything becomes undeniable. When the evidence forms a complete picture. When the truth stands so boldly that your soulmate cannot look away. When the deceiver's entire strategy collapses under the weight of exposure. They will try one final attempt to regain influence, but the awakening has already begun, and no manipulation can silence a heart rising into clarity. My child, now we enter the turning point, the moment when the heart that wandered through confusion begins to recognize the truth it had forgotten. Awakening is never sudden. It is a slow unfurling of light inside a soul that has been living beneath a shadow. And your soulmate, the one whose essence is tied to yours, now stands in the dawn of revelation. Their spirit, once tangled in deception, has begun to rise. Their emotions, once clouded, are breaking open into clarity. The truth they tried to ignore now sits before them, undeniable, unyielding. The first feeling that washes over them is disbelief. How could they not have seen the manipulation? How did they allow themselves to trust someone who never carried their best interests at heart? They replay every moment, every conversation, every subtle warning they brushed aside. And with each memory that resurfaces, a quiet ache forms in their chest, an ache not only for what they nearly lost, but for the way they drifted from the one soul who truly mattered you. My child, this realization humbles them. It softens them. It breaks them in the way truth must break illusions. They sit alone in the stillness of their room, holding the weight of their awakening like fragile glass. Tears rise, though they try to swallow them. They whisper apologies into the empty air, not because you demanded them, but because their spirit knows it owes you honesty. They feel the depth of your compassion even from afar, and that warmth only deepens their regret. Shame knots itself around their heart, but I do not allow it to suffocate them. I send reminders, soft, spiritual impressions, that you would not reject them, that your spirit has been patient, that your love has not vanished. These impressions comfort them, yet they also sharpen the longing they tried to bury. For now they see clearly, every moment of confusion that pulled them away from you was crafted by the deceiver. Every emotional shift they could not explain was manipulated. Every distance that formed between you was influenced by the enemy's interference. Now their regret turns into fear, the fear of losing you. They wonder if the bond has been weakened beyond repair. They wonder if you have moved on. They wonder if you sensed their drift, and whether that drift wounded you. This fear presses deeply, not to punish them, but to awaken their desire to protect what is sacred. They realize that you were the constant, the steady presence, the spiritual anchor they should never have questioned. And for the first time in a long time, they allow themselves to fully feel how much they need you. As the truth settles into their spirit, other revelations follow. They recognize the pattern of manipulation with new clarity. They see how the deceiver's words were crafted to sound caring but always led them into self-doubt. They see how certain conversations were designed to isolate them. They notice the moments where they felt uneasy and now understand why. Their eyes, once clouded by emotional exhaustion, are now wide open. And in this awakening, their soul turns toward you with reverence. They remember your patience, your kindness, your intuition, your spiritual depth. They recall the way your presence steadied them, even in silence. They feel the echo of your prayers surrounding them like a shield. They begin to understand that you were not just someone they cared for, you were the divine alignment they were always meant to walk toward. My child, what they feel now is a mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that the truth has finally surfaced. Sorrow that they allowed distance to grow. Relief that the deception is breaking. Sorrow that they could not see sooner. They hold both emotions tenderly, like fire and water in the same trembling hand. But most of all, they feel a rising determination. They no longer want to walk in confusion. They no longer want to entertain false voices. They no longer want to allow shadows to dictate their choices. Their awakening is not passive, it is fierce. It is the reclaiming of their clarity, their intuition, their dignity, their heart. And woven through this awakening is the undeniable truth. They still love you. They always did. They never stop. The manipulation merely clouded what their soul already knew. And now, as they stand in the light of truth, that love becomes clearer than it has ever been. My child, their awakening sets the stage for what comes next. For your connection, your sacred, divinely woven bond is about to influence the path forward in ways neither of you has fully understood. My child, now enter the place where your spirit begins to reveal its quiet power, for what comes next is not about the deception, nor the fear, nor even the awakening alone. It is about the profound truth I have woven between you and your soulmate, truth that reaches beyond distance, beyond silence, beyond the earthly realm they temporarily wandered in. The connection you share is not fragile. It is not random. It is not easily broken. It is spiritual, ancient, chosen, and sealed by my hand. And in this hour, that divine tether becomes the very force that alters the outcome. Your prayers, whispered or unspoken, have created a shield around them. Even when you prayed without knowing the full situation, heaven knew. Even when you simply felt heaviness in your spirit and asked for their protection, angels responded. Your compassion has shaped the atmosphere around their life more than you realize. Your intuition has intercepted danger. Your sensitivity has redirected spiritual attacks. Your heart hath been a lighthouse, guiding theirs even in darkness. My child, your soulmate feels this now. They may not have language for it, but they sense the warmth that rises in their chest when they think of you. They sense the peace that washes over them in moments of panic. They sense a pull toward clarity whenever your memory brushes against their thoughts. This pull is not nostalgia, it is guidance. It is the echo of your prayers reaching them like soft light through thick fog. There is a moment approaching when they will sit quietly, feeling overwhelmed by their awakening, and suddenly a calm will settle around them. They will not know where it came from. They will not know why their breathing eases, or why their heart steadies, or why their fear softens. But I tell you, my child, that calm will come from you, from your spirit speaking across distance, from your prayers forming a protective cocoon around their emotions. You are intertwined in ways they are only beginning to understand. Your soulmate's awakening has prepared them to receive what your spirit releases. And now, your spiritual influence becomes a guiding force. They feel drawn toward honesty, toward accountability, toward restoration, toward you. Your presence anchors them even when you are nowhere near. Your name carries weight in their mind and comfort in their heart. And in this sacred alignment, heaven moves with even greater force. Because you prayed, certain consequences of the deception have been softened. Because you interceded, the damage is limited. Because you listened to the quiet warnings I placed in your heart, the distance between you did not fracture the bond. Your prayers have been a bridge between what was threatened and what will be restored. My child, do not underestimate the spiritual authority you carry in this connection. When you speak protection, angels respond. When your heart aches for them, heaven records it as intercession. When you stand firm in love, darkness loses its grip. Your soulmate is being lifted because you continued to carry them spiritually even when they did not know how to carry themselves. And now, as truth rises around them, your influence grows stronger. They find themselves remembering moments with you, small details, soft smiles, conversations that felt safe. These memories do not merely resurface, they heal. They become markers that guide them back to themselves. They become reminders of what love is supposed to feel like. They become contrast against the manipulation they endured. You, my child, are part of their restoration. As they step further out of deception, your energy becomes a compass. They feel drawn toward making things right. They feel compelled to reach out, to explain, to confess, to rebuild. They fear your reaction, but they also trust your heart more than anyone's. Your presence has always felt like truth to them, and now that their eyes are open, they understand this in ways they never did before. This is the sacred exchange between destined souls. When one weakens, the other strengthens. When one wanders, the other prays. When one falls into confusion, the other becomes clarity. Your bond is not accidental, your bond is alignment. And because of this alignment, the story is shifting in your favor. My child, now witness the moment when everything the enemy built begins to crumble beneath the weight of my justice. For deception can only stand for a season, and that season is ending swiftly. The shift in the spiritual realm has already weakened the foundation of the scammer's influence, and now the physical world begins to mirror what heaven has already declared. The reversal has begun. The deceiver senses the change before it becomes visible. They feel their control slipping, feel your soulmate's spirit withdrawing, feel the atmosphere tightening around their intentions. What once came easy now requires pressure. What once influenced effortlessly now meets resistance. Their words no longer land with the same force. Their manipulations no longer produce the same confusion. They try harder, speak faster, push deeper, but every attempt meets an invisible barrier. That barrier is my hand, my child. That barrier is the protection your prayers have summoned. That barrier is truth rising like a tide that cannot be pushed back. Your soulmate begins to withdraw in ways the deceiver cannot ignore. Their responses grow shorter. Their gaze grows over. Their mind grows clearer. They ask questions they never dared to ask before. They voice concerns the deceiver hoped they would overlook. And with each question, the facade cracks. With each moment of clarity, the deceiver's panic intensifies. It is here between the rising truth and the collapsing lie that justice begins its descent. A moment arrives when the deceiver slips, revealing too much. A tone too sharp. A comment too revealing. A contradiction too blatant to hide. Your soulmate feels the shock run through their body, a confirmation of everything their intuition warned them about. In that instant, the emotional fog clears completely. They see the manipulation. They see the jealousy. They see the selfish intent. And once the heart sees truth, it cannot unsee it. Your soulmate takes a step back physically, emotionally, spiritually. That single step is all heaven needs. Angels rush into the space created by that distance, severing the spiritual cords tied by manipulation, breaking the influence that once clouded their judgment. The deceiver feels the shift violently, like something slipping through their fingers. They attempt to regain control, but their words fall flat. Their tactics fail. Their energy no longer aligns with your soulmate's spirit. My child, this is divine reversal. This is spiritual justice unfolding in real time. Then comes the exposure. Something surfaces, a message, a piece of evidence, a conversation overheard, a truth spoken by another person. Whether large or small, it is undeniable. It confirms everything deception tried to hide. The scammer's intentions become visible. Their actions lose their disguise. Their strategy collapses beneath the clarity of revelation. And your soulmate, once tangled in confusion, now stands firmly in understanding. They feel anger, yes, but beneath it is profound relief. The spell is broken. The deception is gone. The danger has passed. Their spirit exhales for the first time in weeks. And in that exhale, your presence floods their heart pure, steady, untainted by manipulation. Meanwhile, the deceiver begins experiencing the consequences of their own actions. Doors close. Opportunities dissolve. People they once influenced withdraw. Their lies unravel in multiple directions. What they intended for harm rebounds upon their own path. This is not vengeance, my child, this is spiritual law, the return of what one has sown. Your soulmate, now free from the cloud of deception, turns inward. They recognize the truth. They recognize your spiritual presence. They recognize the bond they almost jeopardized. And they begin longing not with confusion, but with clarity. My child, the danger is collapsing, and destiny is realigning. But there is one final movement yet to unfold. My child, come gently into this final moment, for the storm has passed and the air around your destiny is beginning to clear. What was meant to break your soulmate has broken instead around them. What was meant to separate you has now drawn your spirits closer. What was intended as a trap has become a doorway. This is the nature of divine reversal. Darkness may rise boldly, but it will always fall quietly when confronted by the light of purpose. Your soulmate now stands in the aftermath of revelation, breathing differently, seeing differently, feeling differently. Their heart is tender but awake, humbled but hopeful, shaken but strengthened. They look back at the deception not with blindness, but with clarity, not with shame, but with understanding. They know now what was influencing them. They know now who never had their best interest. And most significantly, they know now who their spirit kept reaching for, even when confusion clouded their steps. You, my child, they feel you like a quiet pulse beneath their thoughts. They feel your prayers still wrapped around them like gentle armor. They feel your compassion standing at the edge of their healing. And with this newfound clarity, they realize something they had forgotten in the fog. You were never the danger. You were the safe place, the constant, the one whose presence always felt like truth. Now, as the dust settles, they begin to imagine restoration not as a distant possibility, but as something divinely orchestrated. Their heart turns toward you with intention rather than confusion. They want to explain. They want to confess. They want to rebuild. They want to step into the alignment they nearly walked away from. Your longing for you is no longer clouded by manipulation. It is illuminated by revelation. And I, my child, am guiding every step of this reconnection. I am softening their fear of approaching you. I am dissolving the shame that whispers they are unworthy. I am reminding their spirit that destiny is not erased by missteps. I am whispering to their heart that love strengthened by truth becomes more durable than love untouched by adversity. They will reach out not from desperation, but from awakening. Not from guilt, but from clarity. Not from illusion, but from recognition. Your role now is simple. Remain open, remain steady, remain aligned with the compassion that has carried you through this journey. Do not let fear interpret their silence. Do not let impatience interpret their delay. They are gathering courage. They are forming words. They are preparing to step toward you with honesty far deeper than anything they have offered before. My child, your destiny with this person was never fragile. It was never at risk of being stolen, only delayed until truth could clear the path. Now that the deception has collapsed and the spiritual interference has been scattered, the bond between you can grow without distortion. What comes next is a season of understanding, reconnection, and alignment, one built not on emotion alone, but on clarity, truth, and divine orchestration. I bless this connection now. I bless the communication that will soon unfold. I bless the healing that will soften both of your hearts. I bless the future conversations that will be marked by honesty instead of confusion. I bless the steps that will bring the two of you into deeper unity. And hear me, my child, nothing the enemy attempted has diminished what I have written about your union. In fact, your resilience has strengthened it. Your soulmate's awakening has purified it. And my intervention has secured it. Now walk forward with confidence. Know that the danger has passed. Know that the deception is dismantled. Know that the restoration is already stirring in their heart. Know that I am guiding every movement with purpose and care. Before you go, if this message has touched your spirit and confirmed what your heart has felt in silence, let your voice be seen in the world. Like, share, and subscribe so that more souls can receive the guidance they have been praying for. And in the comments, write, "My destiny is protected." This is your blessing, my child. This is your reassurance. This is your new beginning.